Right, relax.
Okay, so this is Senate Appropriations, and we are taking up H 461, which is a miscellaneous changes to the education law. And from the Education Committee, we have Senator Kulik, and we also have Elizabeth St. James, who is the drafter from Ledge Council. So if you want to have I don't know how you want to do your presentation, if you want to.
It's the committee's preference.
All right, Senator Gillett, I want to make sure that you have your opportunity to make comments about, but is it all right if you have Ledge Council staff then?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm totally fine with that. I mean, I would literally be reading the sheet that Ms. St. James gave me anyway, so.
All right, so why don't you come up? Thank you.
Thank you.
Beth St. James, Office of Legislative Counsel. You also have draft 3.1 of the Senate Education Amendment to H 461. Is that what you all are looking at? Great. Do you want me to run through the whole bill, or do you want me to just focus on the one section within appropriation?
I think I'll defer to my committee's view, but do you want to go through the whole bill? It looks like if it's miscellaneous changes, a lot of it's technical in nature.
The one thing I want to be assured of is there's no changes in here. They're going to affect my independent schools, like Long Trail School in Dorset, Thorn Burton in Manchester, North Bennington Independent School in North, obviously. But there's nothing in here that will affect those schools.
I think that's in a different bill.
Yeah.
I think it is, but you never know.
It might be a Pete the Moose in here. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Okay.
I don't know. Asking a lawyer if there's anything that will affect anything in a bill is a loaded question.
Well, I need the answer before
So
I can vote for the bill.
I would say the only thing, there's nothing in here that directly addresses independent schools. There are things that may eventually impact independent schools, including the Act 1 working group's recommendations and some of the dates that they have. This bill moves out, but there's nothing that directly. I'm just scrolling through here.
Oh, my goodness. Well, we can run through very quickly, but I think that would probably be addressed in that other bill.
H 483, that's a horrible bill.
No, it's S66 as well, was the Senate.
Yeah, but 483, which is really an innocuous bill, quite innocuous, but anyway.
Well, that's not the opinion of my constituents.
Okay, so it would be tangential. It's not anything directed. Why don't we just go through them very quickly?
Sure. Sections 1, 2, 3, and 4, actually 1, 2, and 3, all impact the shared school district financial data management system, which there was a requirement starting in 2018 that the Agency of Education develop a shared school district financial data management system that everyone would be using. The implementation dates have been pushed out various different times.
Mm-hmm.
And so what sections 1, 2, and 3 do combined is it suspends the implementation of that data system. So it stops any requirements for school districts to be required to join it. It stops the further development of the system, but it does allow for current users to continue to use it with support as needed. But it eliminates all requirements. Section 4 on page 3 is an amendment to the National Guard Tuition Benefit Program. It's adding a benefit. So the addition is on the very bottom of page 3, line 17, for courses. So
That's substandard language. I've seen it used before.
yes, it's actually pretty similar to the benefits that appear above it. But this just allows a National Guard member to use this benefit at an out of Vermont post-secondary school if the degree program the Guard member is interested in is not available in Vermont. I think that came up mainly in relation to physician assistance programs. We don't have one. Section
study.
Section 5, there are amendments to the home study program.
And we don't need to get into the
Great.
details of that.
That's the bulk of the bill, actually.
I can see it.
So we're gonna move right.
It is a lot.
It is. We are gonna move to page 13, line 8. Begins some changes to the Vermont Ethnic and Social Equity Standards Advisory Working Group. I think colloquially, we all refer to this as the Act 1 working group. They are still doing their work. And so section 6 pushes out some of their deliverable dates and also extends the life of the working group to September 1, 2023. And then section
So
7.
that's only a couple of months.
Yes, yes.
And so when is the report?
So they, on page 14, the working group is required to review standards for student performance and make recommendations to the state board and then report to the General Assembly on or before current law is December 31st, 2022. And so this would amend that to June 30th, 2023. So just coming up.
So but they ceased to exist 6 months before that.
No, they cease to exist now on September 1st, 2023. And then the state board on line 8, page 14, the state board has other requirements based on the recommendations, and those, the state board's responsibilities, that date has been pushed out to December 31st, 2023. And then section 7 creates a new technical advisory group, which when the Act 1 working group ceases to exist, this technical advisory working group would spring to life. The membership of this technical advisory working group created in section 7 is a subset of the active committee members on the Act 1 working group. And the purpose of this technical advisory group is to be available to answer questions and facilitate discussion around the work of the Act 1 working group through the fall and beginning of the legislative session. So that it's not the Act 1 working group is very large. And so this would be essentially a subcommittee, but instead of a subcommittee, it's a brand new committee. But there's no appropriations, there's no per diems associated with this language.
What is it, the active members of the Act 1 group?
They're enumerated on page 15, so it's not every member. But for the positions enumerated here, it would be the active member at the time the working group ceases to exist. Section
Page 15.
So,
Was this in the hospital?
No.
Right, and these are all, except for the students, I guess. Wow. Why do we say Montpelier High School? Just because of proximity rather than Union 32 or?
I believe that's just the student appointee is currently from Montpelier High School.
Oh, I see.
And so the active member would carry over into the technical work group.
When does this sunset?
This group ceases to exist on January 31st, 2024.
Next year.
If it's January next year.
January 24. Right. This is 23, so.
It is.
I can't hear illustrating, so it's not too far off then. We get confused, is this 22, 23, and we're in fiscal year 24, and we're out into 5, and when you go to write a check, you don't know what year you're supposed to write. So, all right, other questions about the technical chair of the advisory group, then it looks like it's just taking out of a very large membership, a subset to provide or carry out this function. All right, and it's gonna cease to exist. That's always nice to see. Now we're on to driver ed.
Yeah, it's good to see.
Why the hell do we study this stuff? Pretty,
We had this driver's ed issue come up in transportation.
yeah, I know, and this is this stuff is like a no-brainer. Why don't we do it? Why don't we just study it?
No, this isn't studying.
Oh, it's a pilot project. Excuse me.
Yes.
Thank you.
Section.
Thank you. I'm so used to all we've done is studies today.
Yeah, we have-
Thank God there's something actually gonna happen.
We're gonna put on our board, if we can't fund it, study.
That's true.
We're gonna put that on our board.
And if you want to kick that can down the road another mile, you study.
All right, let's move to page 18, because you were moted too early.
Yep, I did. I did. It's a pilot project.
Yeah, it's a pilot project. All right.
There's a report.
They show submit a written. You just need to wait to the next page.
Oh, my God.
There's no
They
study.
want $200,000 to file a written report.
So the pilot project created on section 8
Do we
is,
have that in our list, Stephanie? Which one? 200,000 to education? Oh, it's from the ed fund
From the
though.
ed fund.
Okay, all right.
Well, I don't think so.
Oh, well, it's from the ed fund, the
Oh, from the
appropriation
ed fund to the agency, okay.
to develop this program. Hmm.
yes, do you want to talk about the ins and outs of the program or just know
Was
that?
this in the house?
We just spent $27 million in ed fund money yesterday.
The 29.
But who's counting?
I have a question. For those of us, no, I wasn't around, but I thought Act 60 was very clear in terms of how the ed fund could be used for administrative purposes. And this is to the Agency of Education. And I'm just wondering if in fact we are,
Pushing the limits.
well, whether we are using ed fund money in a way that's not permissible under current statute.
So this appropriation, when you see an appropriation from the ed fund for these kind of one-time uses, you will often see this on line 19, page 18.
Notwithstanding.
The notwithstanding, you are notwithstanding the language that says you can only use the money from the ed fund for the enumerated purposes.
So that makes an order.
It makes it legal, it's a policy choice.
But let me ask, was this in the House passed version?
No,
Did this, all right, normally we would, finance looks at anything that
Comes out of the ed fund.
ed fund.
we have not been to finance on this bill.
I think I better have a conversation because this is something that people are very vigilant about. And that's why we fund the Agency of Education with general fund.
There's a statement on line 15. If the recommendation is to expand the pilot program beyond the initial participating school districts, the report shall include any modification and resources necessary for the expansion. So they're already looking at more than 200,000.
Well, pilot is on driver's ed, which is a permissible expenditure, I believe. It's just, they have difficulty finding instructors is
Right.
one thing.
I'm all for giving kids the opportunity to get driver's ed, but it appears that there's a plan here afoot to expand beyond this year. I mean, beyond the pilot project, I should say.
Well, it looks like the 200,000 would go to make a program, so it does go to a school, I would assume. Maybe not, I don't know.
Regional code.
I know, but,
We did want to ask transportation for at least half the money, but we were told under no circumstances could we do that, so,
I remember that discussion.
yeah.
Would there be a way to amend with the high school?
They're not driving.
Are you sure?
Well, eventually.
So is that why it was in the original?
No, this was
No.
added by Senate Education.
They laundry trucks. Been-
Why don't we keep going? I think we just better, as a courtesy, let our colleagues across the hall know that we are notwithstanding a statute that was put in place I think probably for the very reason that there was concern that there would be an attempt to, how the ed fund might be used.
Having been on the finance committee the year that Act 60 was written,
Oh, good.
I can honestly say that the House was more concerned about that section than the Senate.
So,
But
We're being-
put
we're
that
being-
in. It wasn't asked.
Our traditional selves.
oh, okay. So are you suggesting that I should not confer with
No,
my
I think you
colleague?
should confer with your
All
colleague,
right.
but it was basically the House that insisted on that kind of language.
Well, they were concerned that property taxes would end up picking up
Yes.
more
Right.
and more. state
And
government.
more from the Senate perspective was the long-term education quality for kids. And that it might take, that we looked at outside things like community action, other ways. And that should be more flexible in terms of what's education, what's not. Obviously, you wouldn't want to be building roads out of it, but there were things like this. That's just from the original back and forth.
Well, and this isn't going to, like, the agency for their administrative staff. It's for a pilot out.
Yeah, it's going to the
School
kids, to the
districts,
school,
school
to the
districts, so,
teacher.
But, so in this case, it seems like it is directly benefiting,
Kids.
well,
Kids.
kids in local schools. It's not to pay for an account. You know, the secretary of the
Well,
agency.
As a whole as well, safe for the driver, the better off we all are.
Yeah, okay. I'll just let, Senator Cummings know that there's this, we'll keep going.
Sections 9, 10, and 11 amend the number of signatures required to get on a petition for a union school district board membership seat under certain representation models. And it changes that anywhere where there's a requirement for 60 voters to sign a petition, it changes that requirement to 30 voters or 1% of the legal voters in a district or a proposed district if the nominating petition is for a district that is going to be formed.
Understand why they're doing it, but in my area anyway, there is such a difficulty of getting anybody to run,
Right.
particularly for school boards.
Yeah.
I mean, they're actually drafting people and you gotta be careful, you don't get too many write-ins or you'd be on the school board. So
Well, this is making it easy.
I know, and anything we can do to make it easier.
Well, what was weird was that I'm in Burlington and I only need 30 signatures and some of my colleagues down in southern Vermont, in these tiny towns, were having to get 60. And that didn't make any sense.
Make zero.
It makes no sense, you're right. And the other, but the problem is, we can't even find people who are willing to serve.
Yeah, no.
You know, in our most recent election to the school board, we had a number of openings, and then the board has to, from that town to the union board, has to appoint somebody who's willing to serve. So there is no election.
So,
I think there was one contested race in the entire supervisory.
We didn't have any contested race. Well, one select board was contested, but everything else was.
well, it is hard to find.
Yeah,
Do you, Chair, do you want to vote the bill
Well,
out on condition of talking to the chair? Or
Yeah,
wait
I
till you
would
talk
like
to the
to.
chair?
I think,
Is this?
I think it is going to a school, so I'll alert her and then if there's an issue, but I think we can move the bill out. I'm not anticipating, if it were doing to hire a consultant at AOE, I think that might be of concern, but it seems like it's really to get out to the school district.
I remove that. I move the report favorably.
Okay, so Senator Sears moved, and then second by Senator Kurtz. Is this the data system that we postponed and postponed? That's what it's, oh, yes. How many words? Well, Martha Heath was chair education at the time we did it. That's a lot ago. And, oh, it's a good thought. It's just the system that got procured was a disaster, I guess.
Mhm.
They require the chart of accounts part of that original?
The chart of accounts is, the chart of accounts is still a requirement. It's not affected by this system.
All right, so we have a motion to move the bill favorably. And
Senator
seconded.
Lyons,
Yes,
Senator Birchler,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes.
Senator Starr,
Yes.
Yes. Education is normally Senator Bruce, but he's not here. So.
Doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah, we can make it. Put his name down.
I think you should. And Senator Westbrook to back him up.
Who wants to volunteer? I'll do it.
you sure?
All right,
Well, I don't see anybody.
I can do it.
All right.
I'm
Senator-
already doing the two.
Are you
items.
gonna
Makes
talk
it-
with
keep it in a
Senator
row.
Cummings?
Yes.
Well, you will talk to the chair of finance.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
Or you can talk.
And they're from the same
Are you
district.
sure you can talk to her?
She's close
Okay.
by.
So I'm going to adjourn the committee for the day. The committee of conference on the budget is going to convene in here at 3:30, but we have about 22 minutes to, maybe I'll go